Cue announcer. And we're live! It's episode 60 of the Crafty Boys. Myself and Locke are in the same location today because we went and saw some really interesting discussions about... I don't actually know what the hell we actually watched, but I fell asleep, so it was okay.
Fell asleep?
Yeah, I fell asleep during the event, which is awesome.
Son of a bitch.
And it was okay, but the individual giving the presentation didn't know anything about how to do a presentation. So that's why Locke forgot his name, and I just pulled mine out of my pocket here, because at this event, they were very concerned with who people were. So my name is Shane, this is Locke. Who are you guys?
I'm Bob.
Hi Bob, how's it going?
Good.
And I'm Doug. I'm Doug.
It's weird being a Bob, but
Okay, enough.
Oh, no, I'm Alan.
Here.
I'm Alan.
Because we all have it, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
No,
No.
What?
What?
Dave, seriously?
couldn't get it.
You couldn't get it. This thing's like available everywhere.
They're distributed
there
by
isn't a place.
InBev.
I did get this, which is the same
which is
brewery.
just what, to mock us?
Sorry, what did you get?
I got a wine this week. I decided to just go all in.
Wow.
That's all in?
No, this is Sophie, which
Is that your
is
girlfriend?
I
That's
wish.
all, huh, Dave?
Quite
This
the
is
figure,
a
quite the figure.
Belgian-style farmhouse ale from Goose Island.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay, we'll let that one slide. At least it's from the same brewery.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
So, Alan, why'd you pick this one?
I have this beer occasionally, and I've just been seeing it around a lot more. And I actually, for an IPA from a place that's fairly, is from Chicago, it tastes pretty good. I don't know. I just felt like we should probably do it on the show. And it was also one that I kind of thought we could all get. So that's why.
Well, you were wrong, sir.
Yes.
Wrong.
You're
I
blurry.
say.
You're blurry.
I'm
You're
blurry?
blurry. Getting
Whoa,
focus.
whoa, whoa,
Focus. Focus.
Focus, down front. So, okay, well that's cool. It's unfortunate that you were not able to get it, Dave, but that's okay. Since you got the same brewery, life goes on. So, let's all open up, boys, and do our pours.
All right.
That was... Are those twist tops? Apparently they're twist tops. Alright, I'm doing my
I
pour.
refuse to twist.
There we go. Ooh, look at that cut. Oh,
Twist on.
check that out. Alright, head detection. Look at that pour, nice head. The glue is coming off the label and spreading over my fingers, gross. Look at that. Look at the clarity on that one. Alan's got the same thing going on.
Yep.
Locke, you want to show your glass? Now that is head. That, Locke, is head.
Wow.
Right there. Nice, nice. Okay.
It looks like your guys' is a little more dense than mine.
A
Mine's
little more
quite
dense
airy.
than ours. So tell us a little bit about this beer, whatever your
Alan?
name is, Alan.
Bob.
Wow.
Well, it's an IPA, of course. It's from Goose Island Beer Company, which is located in Chicago. It's got a bourbon color to it, alcohol content of 5.9%, and it's got an IBU of 55, which is fairly nice.
It's a 55.
Wow.
Yes. It's
I'm
won
going to
some
hazard a
awards.
guess and say that that's the highest beer units that we've had. Am I right?
I don't.
No, I think we had a 60 one time.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's quite as hoppy as, say, Fat Tug.
so the original brewery is in Chicago on Fulton Street, which I think is interesting.
Hey.
Given that I'm one of those. Must be a long lost relative of some sort. But it would appear that it's bottled in London, Creston, Edmonton, Montreal, Halifax, St. John's. So evidently it's being bottled in several locations around Canada.
Which is probably why it's so readily available,
Mhm.
except in Dave's.
Except for Dave, yeah.
Yeah.
Move out of the sticks, Dave.
I know that I'm familiar with the product because whenever I go to places that are clearly distributed, the distribution deal is like, you know, some sort of exclusive with like InBev. Out of the range of what's on the taps, this is my go-to. This is the port I go to in that storm. The storm being an airport, you know, or various, like the Moose apparently has given up on other IPAs and exclusively seems to have this on tap now.
Which I have no complaints about.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's for a wide distribution beer, hoppy and tasty in a way that most of the other ones of that category aren't. So yeah, within that field, I think this is a highly competitive product.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's why I kind of appreciate it. It isn't Fat Tug.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't something that you're going to find very locally. But if you're looking for something that's got a wider distribution, and more of a worldwide appeal, then I don't think you can go wrong with the Goose IPA from Goose Island.
No, I agree. I totally agree. It is yummy. I absolutely like it. I love the fact that it has a lot of aroma in it. Like, there's a lot going on in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And
What was kind of
glue.
cool
What
is
with this glue.
I don't know.
Sorry, this when I pour it,
I'm assuming Creston is at fault.
exactly. Damn you, Creston.
what was interesting about this beer is when I went down to Vegas, this was there, right? So I had it here, and I could find it down in Vegas, and it was a lot cheaper in Vegas. Also, Deschutes was down there as well, so it was kind of cool that I wasn't really expecting much of a craft beer kind of thing vibe in Vegas. And it wasn't. I mean, but I could get Goose IPA there, which was awesome.
Dave, have you had the Goose IPA at all?
Never.
Never at all.
I'm still.
Tell me a little more about the one you're having, because I don't.
I'm still not a IPA guy.
Buh-buh?
I am actually really enjoying this one. This is a really, really nice beer. It's light, but it's super tasty. It's
And what's it called again? Sorry, what is it called?
There's a hint of this to it. This is a Sofia. It's a little bit stronger. This is a 6.5%.
That one there.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, I found it.
Okay.
But interestingly, this one actually suggests how to serve it on the bottle. I've not seen that before.
I think we've
It
had maybe
says to
2 or
serve it
3.
at 10 to 12. I'm guessing that's Fahrenheit? No, that can't be.
What on the label?
It says serve in a wide mouth glass at 10 to 12 degrees. That's what it says on the label.
Yeah, well, not so bad.
I'm just guessing that
I like
it's
how this is actually one of those
Fahrenheit,
breweries
it's
that I like
American,
because they add what the beer goes with. wide glass, wide mouse glass, or mouse, blah, wide mouse. I'm sorry. I'd like to get a refund on my 6-pack. There's a mouse in my beer. No, it actually tells you what kind of what kind of hops are used, what kind of malt has been used, and it also talks about the cheese pairing with brie for this for the one that you're drinking, Dave, and also just gives you an idea of sort of what it should taste like in theory, which I kind of like because if you get a beer that doesn't really taste how you would expect it to, then bad. So the one that we're all drinking, Alan and Locke and myself, it's apparently aged Gouda and blue cheese is what we should be eating with this, as also food pairings, curries, chicken, and pork. So, hey.
Nice.
Now, the beer we're drinking has actually been winning awards for a while. Like, it's for the last sort of 12 years or so, it's won like 5 or 6 times. Finishing with a medal in different sort of the Great American Beer Festival, the World Cup Beer Fest. Now, has Goose Island been at the Victoria event?
No, never.
That's too bad. Because they should. Although, I guess it is the Great Canadian Beer Festival.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, that's true, and I don't think Goose Island would come to that kind of event that's very Canadian.
So, in the last week, I have actually brought to the attention to some friends of mine about the wonders of, how shall I say, the vaginal beer stuff. Just to bring that up, because we covered that a little bit a number of months ago from that Kickstarter, or no, sorry, Indiegogo that eventually didn't get really. They got 1,500 euros, so they didn't manage to meet their 150,000, I think, goal. But last night I was on my roof having a discussion with a bunch of people up there drinking some beer, and they actually reminded me that there have actually been a variety of yeast that have tried to, basically from the human body, that have been used to make beer. One was from male yeast, which I did a bit of research on this morning, and it's from how shall I say, under the sack, and also the belly button. So apparently this has been going on for a while. So the vagina-based ones are not necessarily news. So I was, and also this is not the first time this has been done. There's actually some beers out there that have actually been made by individuals who use their own yeast. So, yay. I just wanted to mention that because of the conversation last night. But I have 3 articles that I was looking at earlier today. There's a couple specifically that's interesting to us, considering it is about the passage of beer between the provinces in our fair country. So have you guys checked any of these out? But have you seen these before?
No.
All right. Well,
Tell us.
So essentially today marks the day. 27 days ago, a court decision was tossed out, New Brunswick's ban on importing beer from Quebec, finding it unconstitutional, which I really like because drinking beer in our country, now, if we really think about it, the laws that are currently on the books, aside from the more fairly modern ones, are the same laws that were around when Prohibition was happening. And I know that there have obviously been some changes here and there, but when you really think about it, the control of beer is still a controlled substance, so therefore this kind of crap happens. And I'm very happy that they've established that there's a difference between, what do they say, bootlegging and personal consumption. A case of beer here, now this is by New Brunswick resident Connie Nickel. A case of beer here or a case of beer in Quebec, it doesn't make any difference. It's for your own self. Discuss, boys. Is this true?
Well, it sort of depends on whether you're reselling it, doesn't it? But what's baffling me is that if there's any reason that I can conceive of why you would single Quebec out for some sort of sanction against their products, it would have to be if they only printed the labels in French. The curiosity about that is if there's one other province in Canada that probably speaks mostly French, it's probably New Brunswick.
Now, here's the thing. I don't believe that there's anybody in Canada that, except for those who work in the industry of beer making, like if Joe Blow wakes up, he lives on the border of insert province name here, and then goes to his friend's house, which is 10 minutes down the road in another province, and goes to the liquor store on the way home, buys a whole bunch of stuff. In here, apparently in Nova Scotia, residents can bring home up to 9.1 liters of alcoholic beverages from other provinces, or they have to apply for basically like an import license almost, I would imagine. But do you think anybody out there really understands that at all? Because I could see somebody going and buying 10 growlers at a brewery they like, a brewery that might just be a little bit too far to go to like on a weekend. And so they buy a bunch, stick it in the fridge, they go through it, over a couple of weeks. Do you think that they would understand that there's actually laws out there that basically say that if you're in one province versus another, you're importing liquor?
Well, okay. According to this decision, it would appear unconstitutional laws, so therefore unenforceable.
Exactly. So, because here's the question I'm leading up to: have either of you, and this is for you, Locke, ever gone and bought beer in one province and taken it to another?
Yeah, all the time.
So you've done it all the time, you guys?
No.
Have you ever paid attention, Locke? Sorry, Dave, I interrupted you. Have you never done that?
I have not. No.
So, have you ever
I don't travel.
the amount that you actually can carry?
Not in any respect. There are not a real whole lot of check stops or whatever between Alberta and BC. Not if you're driving through Banff.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could see somebody if you walked in with like a 40-gallon tank and said, "Fill me up," and then they were like, they would probably say something.
And yet still nobody would stop you.
Yeah, that's true. Because you could do it. I'm buying 300 growlers of your best beer. And then I'm going to Calgary. So I don't know. I just found it very interesting that the reason I noticed this particular article was the fact that they had the word unconstitutional in there, and it made me interested. Now I'm going to move on to the next article because I think I'm kind of done on the other one. Did you hear about the 5,000-year-old beer recipe found in China?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I did hear about that.
Tell me about it because I have not read much about it. I need to know more. Inform me, educate me.
Alan,
boys.
do you want to take a lead?
No, you go ahead, Locke.
Okay, so what they've found is a residue at the bottom of a clay vessel. The residue clearly is composed of, amongst other things, fermented barley. There are other ingredients as well, but it's interesting to note that barley was indeed part of the recipe 5,000 years ago in China. Now, we knew that barley was part of the recipe 5,000 years ago in Egypt, but the fact that it should be in China too makes you wonder, how connected were these civilizations that we normally imagine as being utterly distinct? Ultimately, record keeping after about 1,000 years tends to be weak. So, what do we really know about that situation? Evidently, not as much as we thought. Could it? Oh my! They mentioned Patrick McGovern in this. Excellent. Glad to hear it. McGovern, the Indiana Jones of ancient alcohol. no joke.
All
No
hail
joke.
Patrick
I've
McGovern.
spoken to the man. Very intelligent fellow. Very interesting. And I recommend his book. Books. I think he's written more than one now. Yeah. So, and what does McGovern have to say?
Here.
Wasn't involved.
All
in the research.
indications are that ancient peoples, including those at Magia, I'm pronouncing that really badly, apply the same principles and techniques as brewers do today.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to me because I brewed beer for the first time a week and a half ago, and after and here's the thing, I always had an impression for a lot of home brewing that you had to ferment the stuff for quite some time, like a couple of weeks. But what I did learn was that no, you can actually, most fermentations, for at least the recipes that I'm doing, are about 4 to 6 days, depending on the type of yeast you use. And mine finished in 4 days, and so I bottled it. And apparently, I bottled the beer at the right time. Because the beer that I made has an appropriate amount of carbonation to it. Where the people I brewed with bottled theirs about 6 or 7 hours later, 12 hours later, and they have their beers are flat. So it's very interesting, just that sort of type of knowledge that you have to have, or that you can have. I mean, if you're in a large brewery, you have the ability to control temperatures and stuff like that, where I don't. So just doing the math and like, well, okay, I did it this long and I did it this long, so in theory, I have a rough window. But back then, could you imagine like brewing the stuff in like big open sort of whatevers?
Well, and that's an interesting question. Big open whatevers. So 5,000 years ago in China, I don't know for certain, but I would have to say that that's on the sort of the early edge of the Shang Dynasty. So they might indeed have been using extremely large bronze vessels. Shang Dynasty bronzes are some of the oldest and frankly most substantial pieces of existing metalwork on the planet. What is it? When is it? Yeah, Shang is 1700 to so this is pre-Shang Dynasty, so I don't know if they were using bronze or not.
I'd like to put forth another possibility, theory. What if it was aliens?
Well, alien.
What if? Okay. So just a second. Hear me out. Okay. So we knew that the Egyptians were using barley, right? We didn't know that the Chinese were, and they were like great distances apart. The Egyptians were also making pyramids, while pyramids were being made in by the Aztecs and all that, right? So how did
funerary rites in China? There's an argument that there are.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe aliens came down and sort of imparted the wisdom of beer onto us.
Well, I want you to consider something. Before you dismiss that idea, I want you to consider that there is, in fact, a gaseous anomaly. I don't know if I have the location very well in mind. Like, you're not going to get anything too specific, but I think it's roughly between here and Alpha Centauri. A gaseous anomaly made up primarily of drinkable ethanol.
Really?
Yeah, in space, floating around. And further, it is one of the few areas in space where we have detected anomalous movement that might have been a comet, but we still don't have a clear explanation as to what exactly it was that we saw moving through that gaseous anomaly.
I just, for some reason,
so this is
picture
right
William
here.
Riker, like flying through that, going, "Open up the scoops."
Yep.
Funnel that.
Okay, I'm gonna call it right here. Beer was introduced to humans by aliens, as well, and the pyramids were probably the fermentation.
Of course, units.
They were. Yeah,
that makes first contact with human beings such a letdown. It's kind of like,
We're the
in
savages.
Star Trek
We're
lore,
the savages.
a ship comes down, a door opens, a bunch of Vulcans walk out, very regal, going, "Hello, how are you? We noticed you made warp drives, blah blah blah. Dangerous galaxy, blah blah. Let's team
But
up."
actually, we're here to find out more about your beer.
Yeah, no. Well, I just picture this now. Like, the ship comes down, lands, the door opens, and fucking Bill and Ted walk out smoking doobies and drinking 40s and be like, "Dudes, we gotta be here. You know what you guys gotta do? We were noticing from orbit that there's this grain here. It's actually right here.
You gotta get some barley. You gotta do this stuff.
Cultivate this, and then what you're gonna do after that?" And then it's like, "Shit, I gotta go, guys." Out they go.
We're late for school, dude.
that just changes the perspective of first contact being this sort of big deal where it's like, okay, we have to be mental, we have to understand their culture, blah 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 blah. And these guys like bursting in like they're in a fucking dorm.
Stoners that borrowed, like the dad's car and.
So I'm gonna buy into this theory that that aliens introduced beer making to our ancient ancestors. The interesting part is that at the very end of the article it says that there's a suspicion by McGovern, by the way, who said that it feels that it might have actually been an exotic beverage, that they might have actually had it as a status symbol because it was such a hard thing to make, and it potentially had to travel for a while, which would be weird. But there you go. So yeah, it's interesting to think about the explosion of craft brewing as we see it today over the last 5 years of beer sort of becoming more of a thing. About it's not just you didn't go to the beer store to buy a 6-pack of Red Label or something, or which I saw today. We should cover that one. It's in stubby bottles again. But it's actually something that people are now being far more interested in how the brewing process works. And my limited knowledge of the brewing process has actually ignited this kind of interest about, okay, well, if I was able to get it to this point, what else can I do with fermentation? Because essentially I just realized that I can have an entire slave race under my control doing my bidding. Ferment, you bastards! Ferment! Turn that sugar into alcohol! And be very happy about it, but make it taste good in the process. Which, by the way, what we're doing right now, fermenting away in my home, is a carboy filled with wine. So the Crafty boys can talk can name wine. Which reminds me, I did promise last week that we were going to name the beer, but
we didn't do it.
Locke dropped out, and we felt it was bad that we didn't have him included. So. We just kind of didn't bother doing it. So, what happened? You lost your internet or something last
time? Yeah. It failed out, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, geez, well, try to get back on, but it was like done.
Yeah, that's all right. So basically, let me, by the way, grab the said beer a week later.
All right. Sing a song, Lockhart.
I've not seen what he's going to get, so.
So this, I'm just bringing the bottle.
Oh yeah! Ooh, look.
So it's a little clearer than it was last week, because by the time I showed it to you last week, I had bottled it maybe 2 or 3 hours beforehand. So take a listen.
Don't open it.
But why not?
Well, because you're going to lose your carbonation.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll leave it in there. So essentially, down here are my my hops
sediment
and my yeast, which apparently I can use again. If I wanted to do a recipe using the same yeast, because apparently there's enough in there to really continue the process.
So,
so we should name this today. I think we should name it because I think it's important.
I have a question for you.
A couple days, so it might be drinkable.
Shane.
Yeah, sorry, what?
I have a question.
Sorry, I was busy talking about drinking.
Can you squeeze the bottle at all? Like, does it feel hard as a rock when you squeeze it?
There's a bit of give. Yep.
There's a bit of give. Then it needs more time.
Compared to what it was when I first bottled it, I mean, it's hard-ish. There's
How much sugar
did you put? But it is plastic, right?
How much sugar did you put in the bottle before you bottled it?
In this bottle? No, I didn't. I fermented it in a bucket first. In a
Okay,
fermenting
but
bucket.
before bottling, you didn't put any priming sugar in it?
No. The amount of sugar we put in, we estimate it brought it up to about 5, maybe 5.5%. So I did
Right.
not do it after that because the recipe that we're using actually has there's 4 different hops in this one. I can't remember what it's called, and I used Nottingham yeast,
Mhm.
which apparently is the one to use for IPAs. I don't know why yet. My education is ongoing.
I think you used some Galaxy hops, didn't you?
No, he used Galaxy hops.
Oh.
But that's the thing is that I use the Nottingham hops. Apparently, now I don't know if this is true, but apparently the Nottingham is the one that produces more carbonation in the mix as it ferments. So guys, to the real question of the hour, names. What are we gonna name this beer? Because this is a Crafty Boys beer.
All right.
What are we gonna name it?
Well, I think there was a suggestion in our little email back and forth from last week
Okay.
that somebody mentioned arts and crafts because you're doing it with the art tech people and it's the Crafty Boys.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be sort of like a collaboration. So arts and crafts kind of sounds kind of.
I think I like that.
And that could be like an entire line. We could do arts and crafts, and we can call one like glue on sparkles, and another one elbow macaroni, and.
So this is the Arts and Crafts IPA. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess.
I kind of
Or
did.
does it have to be an arts and crafts something IPA, like Shane's IPA or something? Do we need to do
I mean, it's
that?
not like we're going to be selling this.
No, we're just gonna be.
Wink, wink.
Here's the magic: is that I have downstairs in my car stall, I have 40 bottles. The one with the pop tops on them.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be taking some of this beer I'm going to give it a bit more time. I mean, although I have drank 2 of these bottles already, and they are great. But which is awesome. I still have another 8 to go. No, sorry, 10 to go. But the key is I'm going to decant these into those bottles, and I was doing some checking. But I will be able to send them to you because it is less than 6 liters or some amount. It's a 6 or above or whatever it was. But there's a bottom where I can actually send it to people as a gift. So therefore, we'll be covering our own beer on our own.
I would like to make a note to you. Before you go and put them in the flip-top bottles, and he can't hear me, can he?
Shane, before you put them in the flip-top bottles,
I want you to put a little bit of priming sugar in each bottle.
Alan wants you to put a little bit of priming sugar in each bottle.
Why? Why am I doing that?
Because what happens is the yeast kind of gets weakened over time. Okay?
True.
So it's not going to you're gonna lose all your carbonation when you put it in those flip top bottles.
Okay, I'll put a little bit
So
in.
what you're saying is this makes the yeast.
Yes, it replenishes the yeast. You put in maybe like a quarter of a teaspoon in each bottle, something like that. Maybe half a teaspoon. And then you pour it in, and it revitalizes the yeast. It gives them something to feed off of, and it rejuvenates the carbonation.
Cool.
And let them sit that way for at least a week and a half.
I can do that. I enjoy creating glass grenades in my house.
There won't be glass grenades because they're flip-top bottles, and they're actually designed specifically to release any extra pressure.
Very good. The last article here is something for Vancouver Craft Beer Week. which is happening 2 days from now. Which is kind of sad that I'm not going, but that's okay. But essentially, what's going to be happening there is they're going to be doing some stuff. Now, this is what brought my or caught my attention was a kettle sour, which is the first one on their list, which is their sort of top picks for the week. Have you guys heard of a kettle sour? I have not. What is a kettle sour? I want to know more. Tell me.
I think I've heard Locke mention it actually, because we did a sour, did we not?
We've done a couple of sours. I don't know what makes a kettle sour different than another sour. That's actually something that I would like to know more about.
Well, here we go, because I actually have an article here that I did Google earlier today, but I have didn't send it to you guys because I'm a jerk. How kettle souring is making sour beer cheap and affordable. A relatively new method of brewing called kettle souring is making sour beer cheap and affordable for breweries and consumers. Kettle soured beer has now joined the mainstay with early examples such as Bend Brewing's Ching Ching, which is kind of racist. But anyway, the Coffins Myrtle and Beer Royale in Anderson Valley's Goose, and many more. Basically, what it's doing here is it's talking about sour beer as being, of course, a hot trend, blah, 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 blah. Classic sour styles like the Lambic beers out there, where it came from Belgium, of course, and all these kinds of things. But essentially, this is, I guess, an American brewing invention where a lot of the problems with some of the wild fermentation, like the wild yeast that can make it into the beers, can basically make flavors die, and that's sort of a bad thing. So kettle souring is becoming trendy because it lowers them to a lower pH without the risk of cross-contamination of other yeasts or bugs finding their way into the beer while it is busily fermenting. So it's interesting that one of the Anderson Valley's beers that I actually checked out earlier is a blood orange, and we did a blood orange a little while back, and that was actually Dave's choice. And I think we should try one of these because a lot of the sours that are coming out that are using this particular process are fruit-based beers, like they are, grapefruit. I saw a cherry somewhere, which I thought was a bit strange. But essentially, yeah, this is something that apparently has been going on for a little while, but is only really making a sort of a splash into at least Vancouver's beer system, the beer system of our blood flow. The Vancouver Craft Beer Week. Four Winds and Brass Neck, of course, did a collaboration. They're calling it the Honeymoon Baby. It is going to be at the Vancouver Craft Beer Week, and there is also a saison. Now, the interesting thing, I helped on the weekend, this past weekend, to learn how to make a saison on our roof, and holy crap, is it far more complex than the stuff that I was brewing. So it's very interesting because essentially the process the temperature is lower and than the IPAs, so having to make sure that it's cooled properly so that you can actually bottle it properly into the barrels and things. So I thought that was kind of awesome, actually, just going through that process. It took like 3 or 4 hours, which is why I didn't get to the stout that I was going to do this past weekend because I was helping with that a little bit, and we decided to do the wine. So come up with some wine names, guys, because we have a red and a white to name, and I will have about 15 bottles of each. So it's going to be very interesting what happens with that. Because yesterday morning, the wine was all foaming and it had this big layer of head on it. And then about, I don't know, halfway through the day, I sort of noticed the lessening, and by the evening, it was entirely gone. So it's cranking out a lot of
blow off.
Yeah, what he said. And so apparently the fermentation is coming to a close pretty soon in the next day or so. and then I can actually bottle it. I will be putting it in very non-sexy Coke bottles again. This time they'll be smaller, the same size as a typical wine bottle. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But of course, I have to let those sit for 4 or 5 weeks or something before they'll be drinkable. But yeah,
Brewing's fun, man. I'm liking
It is fun. It is fun, isn't it?
So yeah, so actually, I was talking to some people in my building in our Artec Brewers Club or Brewing Club. Actually, hang on, the name has actually changed. We have a logo now, apparently.
Really?
The Artec Brewers Club. Somebody in our building is it's a husband and wife team who do the Pels, as I call them, but they do murals and things. They have a particular style which I really like. So they actually, just the other day, because they were on the roof watching us do this on the weekend, and they've decided to make a logo and see what it would look like on a bottle. So it's kind of neat. So anyway, yes.
So our next step is to get like a huge conical fermenter that's like capable of like producing like, I don't know, like 15,000 bottles or something at once.
You know what's really funny is that the thing that I was looking up the other day was creating, and this is apparently a thing, creating replicas
Oh my
of the stills
God.
from the television
Yes.
show Mash.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
MASH.
Yes. Yes.
So I was actually thinking about, and this is a little
Oh,
dubious,
we
as well,
have to do
Like-
that.
but apparently, as long as you don't sell it, you can actually distill your own gin,
Yes.
which I think is bloody awesome. So I was actually looking up, and I just pulled up a picture of the still for Locke, but essentially this is actually from the replica that's in a replica of the swamp, which is in a museum in Kansas, and they actually have, apparently it would work if you actually made it, and the drink that they made all the time was of course gin, which is like a bunch of different things mashed together, of course. So I'm seriously thinking about actually doing that, but using the still design from MASH, and I looked it up, and it does exist. People actually have made their own that fully functions. So
Okay.
But does it taste good? Because the guys on MASH,
I
they
have
were always
no
going
idea.
about
Well, they always
how...
complained about how awful it was, but at the same time, you know, it's a still on MASH in a hospital in a foreign country while they're being shot at. So what else can you really do? So I think that would be kind of cool. Right?
Mm.
Yeah, Locke's reaction I think says it all.
Yeah.
So there you go. This is actually quite disturbing. While I was doing my research, I don't know if this is really all that important, but a fan of MASH built a replica of some of the tents in his backyard, which I thought was really hilarious. And essentially, this guy has created he recreated the sign, he recreated the swamp, he recreated the mess hall, and he even has a Jeep. So, and apparently, actually, this is the other thing too, which I wasn't quite able to figure out, but he's actually created part of the hospital as well. So there you go. And you think we're crazy? There are people far more crazy than us. So, on that note, Goose IPA from Goose Island Beer Company. I give it a thumbs up. I enjoyed it. I hope to have it again. I'm gonna have to get into some fisticuffs with Locke in about 5 minutes because there's only one bottle left. And what's your sort of final word?
I liked it. I continue to like it. So, yeah.
Simple.
It's
Straightforward. To the point.
When there's sort of something that's more local and higher alcohol available like Fat Tug, I'll probably go that way. But
Oh yeah, totally.
but as I say, there are a lot of circumstances where this is far and away the best thing available on tap, and in that circumstance, I will continue to drink it.
Yeah.
And Dave, since you had a different beer altogether, what is your read on the beer that you've had this evening? The Sophie from the
I
same
give
brewery.
Sophie two solid thumbs up.
2 solid thumbs up.
So good. Yeah, if you
And I have to
guys
say
get a
that
chance to get your hands on it, do so.
Sweet, because it is actually high praise from you, Dave, because I know that you are not the, how shall I say, highest of beer lovers. You're very picky with the beer because in the time that I've known you, you didn't like beer.
Which is actually quite a long time.
It's been quite a long time, but you didn't like beer when I first met you, and you were like, beer, pfft, whatever. And so it's kind of nice to see you come to the dark side. So on that note, make sure to spread the word about the Crafty Boys. We do this every week between 9:30 and 10:30 on Wednesday nights. We talk about beer that we like, craft beer especially. We've done a few non-crafty beers, but you know what? Beer is awesome, and now we're making our own. So thank you again for watching, and Alan, you have the final word.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for that, Alan.
Yeah, no problem.
See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Whoops.
Whoops.